It started with a notification. One glance at my phone, and I knew the truth I had ignored for years was now undeniable. A picture. My sister, grinning beside a cake covered in 28 candles. The caption, "The only one who deserves celebrating." My birthday. My day. Stolen. I typed before my hands could shake, "Nice cake." Seconds later, my mother's reply, "At least someone's worth baking for." That was the cut I had been waiting for. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just smiled. And I typed back, "Enjoy it, while you can." They had no idea what those words meant. Growing up, my sister was the sun, and I was the shadow. If she got a trophy, they framed it. If I got one, it collected dust. If she wanted something, they paid. If I asked, they said, "Earn it." I did. I earned everything: scholarships, promotions, my own apartment, my own life. But no matter what I built, I was still the other daughter. And on the night of my 28th birthday, they reminded me again. Loud, public, merciless. That was their mistake. I stared at the photo until the candles blurred. Then I opened my laptop. One transfer, 2 emails. The beginning of an end they would never see coming. The first step was easy. My sister's apartment, the one my parents bragged about paying for, was in my name. They didn't know that. They never asked who co-signed the lease when she begged me years ago, terrified of failing her credit check. I signed it, quietly, without recognition. She promised to pay me back. She never did. But her landlord knew the truth. So I sent one email, short, direct, legally binding, effective immediately, lease terminated. 12 days later, her scream echoed through the walls of that apartment building when the landlord called to confirm. The second email took longer to craft. It went to my company's HR department. Enclosed were screenshots, my sister's drunken messages boasting about how she borrowed my resume to get into her job interview, how she used my credentials, my work, to land her position. Plagiarism, fraud, the kind of thing companies don't forgive. By the end of the week, she was escorted out of her shiny office, box of belongings in her arms, face pale, eyes wide. But I wasn't finished. That was just the financial blow. The reputation strike, the final move, the one that twisted the knife, was personal. I waited until Sunday, family dinner, their perfect tradition. I walked in uninvited, calm, dressed in black. They looked up, startled, guilty, as if the betrayal was still fresh in their throats. My sister, disheveled, sat at the table. No apartment, no job. The golden child stripped of her shine. My mother's voice trembled. "What did you do?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. "I gave her what you always gave me," I said. Nothing. Silence. Heavy. My father tried to protest, but his eyes betrayed him. Fear. Because deep down, they knew. They created me. They forged me in neglect, in cruelty, in shadows. And shadows learn to swallow light. I left without dessert. The silence I left behind was sweeter than any cake. Now, when my phone lights up with their messages, pleas, insults, excuses, I don't answer. They wanted me invisible, disposable, forgettable. But I made sure my absence cut louder than my presence ever did. Revenge wasn't the scream. It was the silence that followed. And in that silence, for the first time, I felt celebrated. By myself. The only one who truly deserved it.